Okay, there we go. Benny Johnson. Breaking news. ICE has busted a massive illegal alien PDF file network in California. ICE officials have informed me that 10 criminal aliens, all convicted of SA and PDF file activity, were arrested today in California's Central Valley. So y'all know I have to clean the language up. I'm not quoting this verbatim, but read between the lines. Gavin Newsom was giving these monsters a sanctuary, putting American children at risk. The Trump administration is cracking down. Thanks to the brave men and women of ICE, these sickos are off our streets. Gavin Newsom was letting them live comfortably and thrive while putting Americans at risk, said a DHS spokesperson. Under President Trump and Secretary Nome, nowhere in America is a safe haven for criminal illegal aliens. If you break our laws, we will hunt you down, arrest you, deport you, and you will never return. Okay, so here's the thing. I'm going to be honest here. The United States has a problem. Okay, and if you don't believe that we have a problem, let me explain. We are the largest market for child sex trafficking in the world. And I don't know, or I don't understand why it's us. And we're certainly not the only country where these activities happen. Perhaps it's a situation where, for example, there are some cultures where they don't necessarily need to traffic because it's normal for them to mess with the children in their family and nobody's going to do anything. But I don't know why. There's something going on. There's a moral degradation of our society. When people know that they can come to the United States and make a lot of money. The cartels know it. A lot of these illegal immigrants know it. A lot of people who engage in this gang activity, they know if you want to make money off of children, just ship them to the United States, right? I've said this before and I'll say it again. There's also an issue when you have a lot of young military age men between the age of 18 to 25 coming into our country illegally. There was a free flow across the southern border. Why is that an issue? Because these are the ages where men have the highest testosterone levels. And it just is what it is. The men can get upset with me. Especially if you are an older man, that your drive, your hunger for that more than likely lessened as you got older. This is also the age where men commit most of the SAs. I know y'all think it's like older, creepy men that are the ones who are the main perpetrators of this. No, it is men who have a high testosterone level, and that is controlling it. So when these men are in their countries, more than likely they have higher access to a woman. What do I mean by that? So, for example, in Colombia, women selling their bodies for money is legal. It's legal. And not only is it legal, it's cheap. Men can buy a night with a woman for like $10 US. He can buy an experience, right? And that is affordable for most Colombian men. So not only is it accessible, it is affordable. So there's not really a need unless you're just a complete, you love the power and dominance of it. A lot of men don't necessarily feel the need to grape a woman because they can just go buy it for very cheap. Now, when you have a situation where you have a lot of military age men coming across the southern border, and not only are they not coming with women and children, they don't have easy access to a woman because in the United States, women just require more in terms of financials before she even lays down with you. The vast majority do. And not only that, if you want to go buy a woman, most of these girls are not going to sell it to you for $10. A lot of these men can't even afford to give a woman $50 or $100 a night. And that's cheap. That's if you go pay a crackhead on the street. They can't even afford to pay a crackhead because they are working for such low wages in a high cost economy. So what happens? Now you have people who would have otherwise, again, I'm not saying all men who are grapists or women who are men who are sickos, right, wouldn't be doing it in any circumstance, but you have a situation where men who might not have normally engaged in that type of behavior are now engaging it. They're like, I'm just going to go take it. Uh I'll give y'all an example of this. I told y'all I used to be a history teacher. So we were watching a movie about World War II. And it was implied in the movie that, you had this group of men, and it was implied that the men were thinking about raping a woman. Now, they didn't do it and they didn't say it, but I had a student ask, are they talking about, essaying her? And I was like, yes. And I was just straight up, because I believe in not glorifying war and telling people the consequences. I said that is something that is very common that happens during war when you have young men who are away from women and their families, and they've been off at war for a very long time. That's just true. It's just what happens: raping, pillaging, and plundering. There were several young men in my classroom. Again, these are men who played, young boys who played football. So you got that high testosterone aspect, who were like, well, what they said, what do you expect them to do? Shoot. One said, I would too. What you expect them to do? And when I tell you, not one young man in that classroom was like, nah, that's messed up. You shouldn't do that. Right? No, they all kind of looked at each other like, well, and I'm not saying all young boys think like that, but I'm saying this is true. And that is why you have a lot of men who have been shouting to the rooftops, especially conservative men who have been shouting to the rooftops that it is dangerous, it is unsafe. It is unsafe. Why? Because men know men. It's majority of the time you're gonna have women who are naive, who have this Aspen Gold calls it I don't know if I can say this, suicidal empathy, right? To where you will put the situation and the circumstances of another before you will put your own self and your own children. You will consider a stranger's situation and circumstances before you think about protecting your own children. And this is what I was talking about yesterday when Jamal, you brought up the fact that, I'm sorry, I think I'm cutting out. One second. Jamal, you brought up the fact yesterday that a lot of the women in these liberal cities are the ones who oppose Donald Trump taking over places like Chicago, and the men are for it. It's because oftentimes women tend to be empathetic to the detriment of their own selves and their own children. It's because a lot of the time women don't understand how men operate because we've never had to understand. They're the ones who generally have to get out and learn women and do the hunting. And a lot of women don't care to understand men. And that's just the facts of the matter, right? So you have a lot of women who are walking around here naive about the dangerous situation that illegal immigration and mass migration of men without wives and women creates. If you want to take it all the way back to colonization in the Americas, the reason why Latin America is more mixed than the United States in terms of the majority of people in Latin America are at the very least European and Native American. And then in places where they had huge amounts of slavery, they're European, Native American, and African mix. Whereas in the United States, we just now kind of started racial mixing. Well, it's because in Latin America, these men who came over from places like Spain and Portugal came without wives. They came without women. So naturally, you had situations where there were consensual relationships with Native women, or there were situations where they simply took what they wanted. So when you have a whole bunch of men mass migrating into a society, it puts the women and the children and even the boys at risk. It just is what it is. I feel empathy for people in these countries who are not as well off as even poor Americans or poor Canadians and have been economically victimized by the US and IMF. Jamal, I need you to stop. Jamal, I love you. I'm glad that you come here. I would love for you to actually go there and talk to these people. Because when you go talk to them, they're not blaming the IMF. Their majority of them, the only time you really see people blaming the United States is on the internet. When you go talk to the local people, do you know who they blame? They blame their corrupt governments. Period. Because at the end of the day, nobody's forcing these people to take loans from the IMF. Nobody, you know what these people do? They take government assistance from the United States, they take assistance from the IMF, and instead of spending that money on their people, these people pocket that money and leave their countries with the bill. So it's not the fault of the United States. It is the fault of the leadership in these countries. These women absolutely understand. They instigate most of the beefs. They are, oh, I don't believe women are demonic. They don't care about most men anyway. I don't think it's that women don't care about men. I just think that women have not necessarily been in a position to where we have to understand men. So when you have women like myself and other men who are telling women it is a dangerous situation. It is dangerous when you mass import men of military age with no woman and you deprive them of sexual access to a woman. You are going to create a powder keg situation. A lot of women, because they have bought into a lot of feminist ideology, genuinely believe that there are no differences between men and women. They don't understand that testosterone affects men, especially young males between the ages of 18 and 25, in a different way that it affects women. They believe that our brains work the same. They completely bought into this ideology. And because of that, they are naive. I don't think it's a hate or disdain for men. It's that they think that they know better and they just simply don't. America and the CIA do covert operations in their countries to overthrow their leaders. But again, that alone, my point I'm trying to make, Jamal, is that the actions of these local leaders and the leadership in those countries negatively impact that country far more than any CIA covert operation. They have laws, they have legislatures, they have a lot of the same things. They have a lot of the same tools available to them as in the United States. What happens is their governments sell them out, period. And when you have corrupt governments like that, if it wasn't the United States so-called taking advantage of them, it would be somebody else. Because at the end of the day, you have people who don't care about the people, who have sold the people out. And the United States is not to blame for that. I'm sorry. I don't feel like we should shoulder that blame. It's easy to do that. It's easy to blame the United States because then what it does is it absolves the people in the leadership in those regions of personal accountability, of actually having to do something about it. Same way how I say black people blame white supremacy for why they can't get ahead, when I can point to a number of cultural behaviors and personal behaviors that are the main reason why we can't get ahead, and people want to get upset. Why? Because it's easier to blame white people, it's easier to blame the government than to actually do self-reflection, assessment, and change. It's hard work. It is a lot of hard work. And I'm not saying that issues don't exist within our government. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is probably about at least 80% of those problems would be resolved if people would be doing what they're supposed to be doing on a day-to-day basis and behaving in a way that is reflective of somebody who wants to achieve, strive, and accomplish something in life. Okay. So I don't know. What do y'all think about that? I'm glad here. Oh, let me see if I can zoom in on this. Here are the men who were involved in this. ICE arrested Antonia Miguel Francisco, an illegal immigrant from Mexico, with the conviction of lewd and lascivious. Oh, I didn't know that word. That's a new word for me. Lascivious acts with a child under 14. Dang, so he can't even say the girl lied about her age because ain't no way. Uh ICE arrested Sithita Apovyong. Oh, baby, I don't know how to say that. An illegal alien from Laos with the conviction of SAing a victim under 18 and sentenced to 348 days in jail. That's it. Apovyong has an extensive criminal record, including multiple illicit substances offenses, resulting in more than 6 years combined in jail time. How was this man allowed to remain in our country? And a conviction of failing to update SO registration. He should have been deported the first time that he got a sentence. Tatiana, can you turn that stove off? He should have been deported then. Per our legal codes, you can deport an immigrant, a legal immigrant. They don't even have to be illegal. A legal immigrant for acts of moral turpitude. That is very broad, right? So basically, you could just deport them for doing something that is deemed socially unacceptable, right? This man is actually out here breaking the law. Not only is he not breaking the law, he's harboring criminals. And then you have not only is he breaking the law, he's harming children. And then you have these liberals in California who want to protest ICE, who want to say people are being racist, and they don't even ask questions. They don't even care to get the full story. It's automatically because somebody is an illegal immigrant, they are innocent, and there's absolutely no way they could have done anything wrong. And to even suggest that is rooted in racism. Okay. ICE arrested Gurmeet Singh, an illegal alien from India, charged for sending obscene matter. So he must have sent some photos. So we got India in the house. We got Laos in the house. ICE arrested Wilmar Aramis Vasquez Lopez, an illegal alien from Guatemala, with a conviction for lewd act upon a child under 14 and sentenced to 3 years in prison. He was also convicted of lewd acts upon a child 14 or 15 years of age and was sentenced to 8 additional months in prison. Now, we've got Laos, we've got Guatemala, and we've got India so far. But let me be very clear. A lot of people come from cultures that are different than ours. For example, my grandfather worked for, he used to work with a lot of Mexicans, right? And this is not an attempt for me to color all Mexicans as this, but there are certain things that are just more culturally acceptable. For example, in the United States, at one point, it was culturally acceptable for grown men to marry children. Now it is not. You have certain cultures where certain things are normalized and accepted and swept under the rug. So this particular man, without shame, told my grandfather, as soon as she gets hair down there, she's ready. He sure did. Now, this was not a Mexican who was born and raised in the United States. You know, he was like he was an illegal immigrant, right? So he had grew up in Mexico. But you also got to think about this. Cultures where they have rituals or traditions, for example, the whole quinceañera thing, that is to signal that at 15, she is a woman. She is a woman. And though I love a good quinceañera and the beautiful dresses and the food, like that is not rooted in nothing. They don't just have that just to say, just to have it because it's fun. Maybe the ones that live in the United States, but a lot of these men in these countries and even some of these women genuinely believe that at 15 years old, this is a grown woman who is ready and willing to lay down with a grown man. So it's a lot more normalized in a lot of these cultures than what we're willing to talk about. And it creates a problem. With that said, I grew up around Mexican people and I love Mexicans. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just keeping it, I'm just being honest. I'm being honest. Let me fix my camera situation. Give me 1 second. There we go. I think that makes better sense. Okay, guys, if you're just now coming in, please hit the like button. Right now, I am talking about a child a child trafficking ring that was busted in California. Governor Gavin Newsom was harboring them. And the reason why I'm saying he was harboring them is because when you promote sanctuary cities and when you are opposing ICE entering your cities and doing their job every chance you get, when you are coloring this and classifying this as racism, what that tells me is that you don't care if people who are committing crimes against women and children, right? Even little boys. Heck, we don't know. Some of them might be raping grown men. Okay. You don't care if these people are allowed to run amok in your community so long as everybody that has entered the country illegally is allowed to stay. And on the part of these politicians, this is not being done with good intentions. They do this so that they can boost their numbers when it comes time to do a census, so that they can get more representatives in the House of Representatives. They do this so that when it's time for re-election, people in California can go vote without IDs, thus enhancing their chances of getting reelected. Because let's be clear, the only reason why they even promote illegal immigration is because they know if people come into this country illegally and they need to stay forever, then their vote is going to automatically go to the person who is promoting illegal immigration, because their status and whether or not they can stay in the United States is tied to that particular politician. It's brilliant. It's diabolical, but it's brilliant. Okay, ICE arrested Jose Mancia Nunez, an illegal alien with a conviction for sexual battery and sentenced to 2 years. So he's already done time. I don't understand. Why are these people not doing their time and then getting sent back to their country? We already have laws on the books that allow for this. ICE arrested Cesar Osuna Martinez, an illegal alien from Mexico, with the conviction of lewd and lascivious, I'm gonna have to get that word right, act with a child. ICE arrested Arturo Lopez Ramirez, an illegal alien from Mexico, with the conviction of sodomy by use of force. So this man was going in the back door forcibly. That's to me, that's one of the most terrible ways to get raped. ICE arrested Miguel Jimenez, an illegal alien from Mexico. Okay, so far we got 3 from Mexico with the conviction of arranging a meeting with a minor to commit SA. ICE arrested Fabian Perez Ornelas, an illegal alien from Mexico, with the conviction of contacting a minor under 18 for sexual purposes. Again, this is somebody else from Mexico. And before I explain to you the mentality that is pervasive in Mexico in regards to underage girls, this is my first time actually going through this list with y'all. Again, I am not saying that everybody from Mexico, all Mexican men like children. Certainly, there are many Mexican men who would probably beat the snot out of men like this, right? But what I'm saying is, it is absolutely more culturally pervasive in Latin America for men to engage with underage girls. It just is what it is. And it's very underreported. Very underreported. It seems as normalized. I grew up with a couple of girls who had babies by their fathers, Hispanic girls. And again, it happens in other cultures, certainly. But like it's on a whole nother level. It's on a whole nother level. Okay, let's